have a quorum.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
Not live yet.
Okay. Woof.
Yeah, it's my dog in the
Oh,
background.
that's your dog. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we may.
I may have to shut the door.
Well,
And you
no,
should be all set
don't
now, just
worry about it.
talking
He's not gonna keep barking a long time.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay. It says
You
it's
should-
on custom live streaming service
Yep,
now.
you should be all set and live now. Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the commission meeting this morning, and welcome everybody else who may be paying attention and watching it. We're going to proceed with the matter this morning. We do definitely have a quorum. I just, quickly looking at the attendance, I think we've got just about every commissioner here, so thank you very much. And I want to start off also by saying thank you very much for the tremendous work you've done over the last couple of weeks. I've seen a number of you commissioners around the offices here in Augusta, and I know you've been in contact remotely too. It's been very important. We also have our consultants and staff who've been doing great long hours work, getting in before 8, beating me in anyways, and being around here after I've left. We had a lot of objectives for last week. And I think in terms of getting maps together, we accomplished most of them, unfortunately, because we had some COVID contact limitations. I and others had to be away from the office for a couple of days, and that kind of slowed our ability to sit around a table and work on things. But we're going to try to regenerate that this week. But again, I want to compliment all of you for the extent to which you've reached across the aisle, as it were, worked hard. There's a lot of work being done. We are going to be able to have the house maps be able to be distributed by the end of the day. And I just want to say thank you very much for doing that and convene the commission meeting at this point. But again, I just want to say thank you for all, and thank you for the open-minded discussions you've all been engaged in. Appreciate it very much. It's unfortunate we weren't able to have key discussions before we published the maps to negotiate more perhaps and get greater agreement, but we can work on that in what's going to be a busy week this week. I hope all of you are healthy and taking good care and all. And I'm ready to begin the commission meeting unless there's any other commissioner that wants to make some observations before we begin. Anybody else, members of the commission have any comments or all they want to make before we begin? Okay. Troy, Senator Jackson.
Well, thank you, Justice, and thank you, members of the commission. As most of you know, I'm Troy Jackson, and I represent Northern Aroostook County in the Maine legislature, and I have great honor serving as Senator President. Before we started on public comments, I wanted to give a brief opening statement regarding the redistricting process and the proposed Senate Democrats put forward on Friday. The redistricting process this year has been unlike any other. Due to the delay in census data, the Apportionment Commission only has a narrow window to redraw legislative and congressional districts, get public comment, reach a consensus, and then put the maps before the entire legislature for approval. And as a result, every member of this commission is working as quickly and as judicially as possible to get the job done. And that has been obviously strained over the past week also. I'll be honest, the proposals put forward by both Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans are not perfect, but given the expedited timeline, both caucuses thought that it was important to put forward some proposals for the sake of transparency and to get the public input. I believe these proposals should not be considered final, but rather a framework for the final product. When it comes to redistricting, the Maine Constitution offers the following guideposts. Each representative district shall be formed on a contiguous and compact territory, shall cross political subdivision lines the least number of times necessary to establish as nearly practical, equally populated districts, And finally, whenever the population of a municipal entitles it to more than one district, all whole districts shall be drawn within municipal boundaries. Any population remainder within the municipality shall be included in a district with contiguous territory and shall be kept intact. Senate Democrats sought to ensure that the updated Senate maps reflect changes in population to ensure fair representation in government, while also looking to limit disruptions to main voters. In 19 districts, none of the voters would have this new representation drawn in redrawn lines. In comparison, 15 districts have to change based on population changes. Senate Democrats propose reducing the number of municipalities divided by Senate districts from 4 to 3, town and Berwick together. There's a precedent for splitting Scarborough, Portland, and Westbrook due to population density. The proposed splits recognize communities' interests and natural geographic divisions. For example, Westbrook is split along the Presumpscot River, and Portland is split recognizing the different neighborhoods on and off the peninsula. Senate Democrats also tried to keep counties as whole as possible, barring population changes. Due to the increase in population in northern counties, the northern Maine Senate districts had to be adjusted and extended in the central and western parts of the state. Under the Senate Democrats' proposal, 10 of the Maine 16 counties had the same number of cuts or fewer than existing Senate maps. I honestly very much look forward to hearing feedback on each of these proposals. Public input is going to be vital to putting together a final proposal for the legislature to vote on. And I know that the commission has worked very hard to come up with these, and I look forward to the conversation today. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Do any other commission members want to offer any comments, observations before we begin the hearing? Again, emphasizing we really appreciate all the work that's been done by both you and the consultants and staffs over the past couple of weeks. And I certainly would second Senator Jackson's comments that I know that there's still work to do, and we may work towards a resolution. But because of things last week, we weren't able to do as much sort of in person around the table or around the Zoom work as was possible. We were off getting tests. I remember one of the people who works for us in the staff had to go way down to Booth Bay from Augusta just because that was a available place for a test. So anyways, anybody else, any commission members, before we get to the business of the commission, have any other observations they want to make? Let me quickly review here and see if I see any more hands raised. Okay, I don't see that. So at this point, we would proceed to the remainder of the commission business. But again, thank you very much. First thing we have to do is review the minutes of the September 10th meeting. Those were circulated last week. Does anybody have any comments or suggestions on the minutes of the September 10th meeting? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move it that we approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second the motion.
And second, moved by Commissioner Tardy, second by Senator Bennett. All in favor, raise their hands or just say yes.
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 Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to review the discussion of public comment on the maps that were circulated last week. And again, we had maps that were circulated by both the Republican and Democratic caucuses for the congressional districts. We had maps that were circulated by the Republican and Democratic caucuses for the Senate districts. And we had maps that were circulated in agreement, I want to emphasize. And just to put this in context, there was agreement on the county commissioner districts last week, and those are in total approximately 58 districts, I think, something like that. Anyways, more than the combined Senate and congressional districts. So we had agreement on that, except we still have some technical things. It's not any big difference. So we got to resolve with regard to how we deal with the three districts for Franklin County. But we have sort of general agreement on the county commissioner districts. With that being the case, I'd move on to comment on those, and I'd first ask, obviously, we're going to take public comment ultimately, if there's any commissioners that want to offer any observations on the three, the congressional, the Senate, and the county commissioner maps. I'm then going to invite comment from commission consultants if they want to make any. Dave Emery and Greg Olson, and then also any comments or observations that want to be offered by Julie Flynn from the Secretary of State's office, or Jonathan Bolton from the Attorney General's office. I hope these things all meet their proper legal requirements. But anyways, and then after that, we will take public comment on those districting. And I know we have some recommendations from the public, both in writing and people are going to make comments for at least adjustment of some of those districts. So is there any commissioner? I recognize we're going to be discussing these all week, but if there's anybody, a member of the commission who wants to make any observations about any of these districting maps now, and I know you've done a lot of work on them over the last week yourself. Any commissioner wants to make any comment on any of these districting maps now, could you raise your hand or do something else, or just speak, and I will check and see if I see anybody. And again, obviously, we're going to be discussing those intensely over this next week, but okay. Seeing no request for comments from the commissioners, I would invite David Emery or Greg Olson if you want to make any comments.
Well, let me just say that we had communication from three counties, Greg, about the redistricting, and it was very helpful. The Penobscot County Commissioners told us what they wanted, which we were readily willing to agree to. We had communication from Somerset County, which drew their own map, which we agreed to. And we've been in discussion with representatives from Franklin County who have agreed to the three commission map, which is should be before the commission for adoption. And that, of course, depends ultimately on what the voters in Franklin County decide to do with moving to 5.
We had communication from Aroostook too, right?
Yes, we did, and we took their proposal as well. So I think it's very helpful when the commissioners themselves adopt plans or recommend them to us, so they know their districts and their counties far better than we do.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from Greg Olson?
Yes, just frankly agreeing with David Emery, appreciative of the different county commissions who weighed in. I think that gives us a lot of comfort that we're doing the right thing on these maps. So hopefully that's a model that carries through to next time we do this. But very appreciative to the county commissions for making their opinions and support known.
Thank you. And I would observe also, I understand that the individual commissioners themselves, as we discussed at the last meeting, have reached out to some of the other counties too. So we, in fact, have had input from a lot more counties than just those two. But we particularly appreciate the maps that have come from and the ideas that have come from those 4 counties. Again, any more observations from Dave Emery or Greg Olson at this right now? I know you people are going to be doing a lot of talking this week, and maybe you want to hold back now because it's a lot done, and probably after hours too. Any observations from? I'd invite first Julie Flynn to make any comments on any of the maps that have been submitted from the Secretary of State's perspective. We had a good amount of detail in those maps. We also had, with regard to every one, a listing of the municipalities and how they would break down, which would go in which district and things like that. So I think we have a pretty specific idea of what's being proposed by both the caucuses with regard to the maps, or for the county commissioner districts, just by the what's being presented by agreement, and which we may address at the end of this meeting by votes. Julie, Phil, anything you want to offer at this point? I'm not compelling you to speak, but if you'd like to offer anything, please do so.
I think that, both plans are, represent the caucus's idea of where they should go. I don't see anything that's terribly concerning. And it's good that we have agreement on the commissioners. That's makes things a lot easier. So I'm anxious to see how it comes together, what the public thinks of the two plans, and then how it ultimately settles out.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Jonathan Bolton, we done anything illegal yet? Or also just please comment on the observations that have been made, and about whether we're in compliance with how much we deviate from the mean, and things like that. Recognizing that, of course, the congressional district cannot have as greater flexibility as the others.
Sure. I mean, I have not done the percentage calculations. I assume that the consultants have done that, and as was set forth in the I think in the materials from the last meeting. I mean, I did look through the maps for the commissioner districts. Nothing jumped out to me as problematic, and I certainly would encourage, if as these negotiations are happening, if there are specific issues that the commissioners feel like it would be helpful to have the input of our office, to get in touch with me, and we can look at any specific issues that might come up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. All right. Appreciate those comments from from the Secretary of State and the Attorney General's office, and our consultants and all. Any other observations the commissioners want to make before we proceed to consider public comments? Again, I'm just flipping through the commissioners' maps here. All right. And seeing none at this point, we would then proceed to public comments. We have a request to make public comments from Representative Colleen Madigan, from Wayne Kinney, from R. Finch, from Deb McDonough, from Kate Carpenter, who has also submitted some written materials relating to the congressional districts, from Patricia Rupert Nason, from Penelope Hamlin, who's also submitted some written materials, and also brief public comments from Kevin Lamro, brief written comments from Kevin Lamro, who can't be present this morning, might be available this afternoon if the commission meeting went that long. If not, I would at this point welcome Representative Colleen Madigan to the meeting for any comments she may wish to present. Representative Madigan, if we can get you connected here, we'll proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and other members of the Apportionment Commission. I am Representative Colleen Madigan, and I live in Waterville. I represent House District 110, which includes about half of Waterville and a small portion of Oakland. I'm here this morning to voice my
Representative
opinion.
Madigan, is that a picture out your back window behind you?
I wish. It's the
That's
Coast
right.
of Mar in Ireland, so,
Oh, I thought that was Bristol County.
I don't know if you can tell from my name, but I'm Irish, so.
Okay, I'm sorry for cutting in, but anyway.
No problem at all.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. I'm here this morning to voice my opinion that Waterville belongs in the 2nd Congressional District. I want to thank the members of this commission for serving the people of Maine in this process. I am grateful that although this is an inherently political process, our state has historically had less of a problem than other states in this process. Waterville is a small city in northern Kennebec County. Here in Waterville, we have much more in common with the communities in the 2nd Congressional District than like our neighbors in Skowhegan and Fairfield, or even Old Town. We have a hot real estate market, but not the high-paying jobs in southern Maine or the commuter rail to get to the greater Boston area. We are dwarfed by the population of the Portland area. This city also serves as a service center city, primarily for towns that are in the 2nd Congressional District. We are a city undergoing revitalization efforts with much work being done by those in our community. We are quite different from communities in southern Maine. We are surrounded by forests, lakes, and farmland. Our downtown is smaller. Our neighboring towns are smaller. In the past, when Waterville was in the 2nd Congressional District, our small businesses benefited greatly from that. As a small city in a large district, candidates and campaigns spent a lot of time and money in our town. They rented rooms and apartments. They shopped in our local stores. They ate in local restaurants and coffee shops. They talked with local people and heard their concerns. And not just in an election year. In a small city like Waterville, this makes a big difference. I ask the commission to consider the needs of Waterville. We are a small city, but I feel we fit in the 2nd Congressional District much better. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative Madigan. Any questions from commission members? And I've got to zip over the maps and. Okay, and I'd also invite any question beyond commission members. I'd invite any questions or comments from our consultants, David Emery and Greg Olson. Do either of you wish to ask any questions or make any comments regarding Representative Madigan's statement? Okay. Okay.
I would just say, Representative Madigan, thank you so much for your commentary.
Okay.
Thanks for having me this morning, and I emailed this testimony to you. So
okay, yeah, I appreciate that. We did get the email too. One question I would ask is, Waterville was originally in the put into the 2nd Congressional District, I think in 2003, or was it in the 2nd Congressional District before that?
I believe you're correct.
I don't.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Greg Olson.
He's correct. It was 2003 when Waterville went to the 2nd District.
All right. Okay. So I just wanted to, okay. Any other comments or observations you want to make, Representative Madigan?
Nope. Thanks for your time.
Comments? Okay. Any other comments or observations from the commissioners? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your appearance, and we'll certainly consider your ideas along with many others. Actually, there's another person who's provided a fairly extensive proposal, or Kate Carpenter, who we're going to be hearing from in a little bit, who's provided written comments, I think consistent with what some of the suggestions you've made, Representative Madigan. So we appreciate your appearance and welcome you to stay and watch if you wish to do so. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next person in order for appearance, based on the request for appearances we've had, is Wayne Kinney. Mr. Kinney, would welcome you to the meeting. We can get that connected.
It looks like he's with you now, Mr. Chair. He just needs to unmute and turn on his video.
Okay, Mr. Kinney, if you can unmute and mute and turn on your video, we'd welcome you to us. Any?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I was having trouble getting back in. I'm trying to get my video started now, and there it is.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks, and thanks for the opportunity. I want to confine my remarks to Franklin County, where I live, except to say that I understand the difficulties all of you face, especially given delays that are created by others. I appreciate the work and wish you luck. In my view, both plans for state Senate districts in Franklin County are lacking. The Democratic plan splits off part of northern Franklin County to a district in Oxford and adds northern Somerset County to the rest. I believe Franklin County, which is approximately 9,000 people short of a state Senate district, ought to be kept whole, and it shouldn't be too much of a task to do that. The Republican plan puts southern Franklin together with northern Somerset and goes all the way to Dexter and Exeter. That plan stretches standards for being compact and for including communities of interest. The plan would also increase the possibility that a resident of Franklin County would not be a member of the Maine State Senate. I would propose keeping Franklin County whole, retaining Fayette, Mount Vernon, and Vienna, and adding Livermore and Livermore Falls. That district would have a population of 3,102 people within less than 1% of the ideal state Senate district. Livermore and Livermore Falls have a strong community of interest with Jay, including a school district. Jay and Livermore Falls, as some of us know, have boundaries that seem to blend in with each other, and each of the three towns have economic and service industry ties to Farmington. That district would meet standards for compactness and communities of interest, and adding the Livermores would not significantly affect the partisan balance of the district. As for the proposed county commission districts, I would like to thank David Emery for his work. I strongly support the 5-district plan that would come to effect if the referendum passes, but his plan should serve us well if the 3 districts are continued. Thank you again.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Kinney. I just want to observe at this point, so the commission isn't viewed as taking any position on the referendum or anything. We are only going to be developing a 3-district recommendation with regard to Franklin County, and I think we're working on that.
I understand that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we take a position one way or the other on the representative districts. Okay. Okay. Do any other commission members have questions for Mr. Kinney? Okay. Just checking the commission. And do any of the either David Emery or Greg Olson, our consultants, have any questions or observations relating to Mr. Kinney's presentation? Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kinney. We appreciate your participation, and we'll consider your views as we proceed along with our work. Appreciate very much for your joining us and making those helpful observations regarding the Senate districts and the county commissioner districts. The next person requested time for public comment is R. Finch. Person could welcome to join us now.
I believe I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. So much like Rep. Madigan, this is not my actual background. And I also am in Waterville, Maine. I want to offer a little bit of perspective of someone who has lived in Sanford, Maine, South Portland, Maine, and Waterville, Maine, and why I very strongly believe that Waterville belongs in the 2nd Congressional District. There's a lot of Waterville being a former mill town. A lot of the community here is still a working class community that shares a lot culturally with the rest of CD2, including many of the surrounding towns. Rep. Madigan pointed out, I'm just going to reiterate, that Waterville is a service center for kind of the northern Kennebec area, and we serve a majority of the towns that we serve are CD2 towns as that service center. Which is kind of, again, ties us more culturally to CD2 than it does to CD1. And one of the most striking ways I have found that we share a lot in common with CD2 comes to when we need things like additional medical care, or when we want to do kind of some more shopping that isn't contained in the area. We tend to go to Bangor just because it's closer, and two, again, it just has to do with when you're going out and enjoying a day's activities and stuff like that. Again, Rep. Madigan, benefits of speaking first, or everybody else just gets to reiterate your points. But Rep. Madigan talked about how we are surrounded a lot by forested area, a lot of lakes, a lot of ponds. We're not very urbanized, and while we are a growing city, we are still, again, very very tied rurally. And I finally just want to point out on the Republican proposal for the congressional districts, it connects Waterville by means of Sydney and Manchester. And that connects barely, it overhangs by a little corner, and that little corner has no roads that actually connect it. The road that looks like it does is actually part of Augusta, and those are lakes. There's some tiny little like pond roads and lake roads that kind of weave in and out of Sydney and Belgrade and Manchester there, but there's not actually anything that contiguously links the districts, that proposal that links that kind of CD1 line together. And I think that violates the compact and contiguous rules that you guys have to abide by. And that is all that I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Finch, appreciate your comments and observations from your experience in the area. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Finch? Okay. Do either of the consultants, David Emery or Greg Olson, have any questions or observations with regard to Mr. Finch's testimony? Okay.
I would just say I really appreciate the perspective and commentary from another Waterville resident.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other questions from commissioners or anybody else? Okay. Mr. Kinney, thank you very much. Mr. Finch, thank you very much for your time and effort, and be willing to come forward and speak to the commission under these more difficult circumstances we've had for because of our COVID restrictions. But I appreciate your taking the effort and doing that.
Thank you, and good luck, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to still be working on it all week. The next person I have for making public comments is Deb McDonough.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking on this task.
Good morning, Ms. McDonough.
Thank you. It's a difficult one, I recognize, but I do have a couple of comments. So I am Deborah McDonough. I'm a resident of Scarborough, and more specifically, I live very near what appears on both the Democratic and Republican Senate maps to be a proposed boundary between the Scarborough-Gorham District and the Cape Elizabeth District, which also includes a part of South Portland. And so my first comment is that the PDF maps have not been sufficient for me to determine which side of the line I'm on. I did get a link to the Democratic shapefiles last night and was able to figure out where I sit on that map, but I haven't seen that resource from the Republican shapefiles, so I'm less certain where the line exactly is in that case. So I certainly recognize that the population densities in the Portland area and the redistricting rules established by the Constitution require carving up some municipalities, but those of us who do land in these tiny carved out pockets feel a little bit less well represented. Now, given where I live, my focus is on that Scarborough-Gorham district, and these two communities have been just a little over a Senate district for at least 3 maps now, but I'm disappointed to see that it's those of us in the northeast corner of Scarborough that may be affected again. So on the Dem map, it doesn't look like it's Democratic map. It doesn't look like it's actually me, but some of my Scarborough neighbors who were in the Cape District 2 maps ago, with me in the Cape District 2 maps ago, look like they might find themselves in that position again. And I would encourage the commission to explore ways to maybe share the pain, perhaps rotating that section the other way around, pulling a few census plots from Gorham, maybe into Westbrook and shifting. Looks like Westbrook has a line, South Portland has a line, that there may be ways to adjust those lines a little bit to avoid putting the same group of people in that position yet again.
Okay. Anything else?
That's pretty much it. I mean, the other piece that I continue to comment on is not for this this group, but this group experiencing the redistricting efforts may want to consider working with the legislature to adjust the numbers. If the number of House seats was an exact multiple of the number of Senate seats, this redistricting process would be a little easier and not leave these tiny slivers all over the map where a group of people are working with some neighbors on their House representative and a different group of neighbors on their Senate representative. So there are some ways to do that. It would require a constitutional amendment to give the House seat numbers a little bit more flexibility. But here we are needing to draw 2 entirely separate maps with these funny slivers and more different kinds of ballots. But that's a question for a different day.
Yeah, okay. I agree that's a question for a different day, though. Theoretically, the commission could change the number of Senate districts to more closely approach 1 and 5 House districts. But the commission's already decided earlier in its discussions to leave the number of Senate districts as they are. In this matter. So, but I appreciate that.
You'd need 4 more House districts to make it work, even if you drop the Senate down to the 31.
I understand that. But,
it's just kind of a nightmare. So
yep.
good luck with that.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Well, that's as you point out, that's not a question for us today or the rest of this year. So, anyways, appreciate that.
But trying to avoid nailing that same group of people in Scarborough again, I think would be useful. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions, observations from commissioners? Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Senator Bennett.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, I don't recall us taking an official vote or taking a position regarding the number of Senate districts. I think both plans have, both the plans that have come out of the Republican Democratic caucuses maintain it at 35, but did I miss an action by the commission?
I thought a couple times ago we sort of said we would and it was not, there was no vote, a discussion. We'd leave the number of Senate districts as they are now, that we would not be, when we are drafting Senate districts, when we were discussing with the commission drafting Senate districts, it was agreed we'd basically proceed with drafting 35. That was the discussion we had a couple meetings ago. Okay. Any other questions, observations for Ms. McDonough? Okay. Dave Emery.
Just following up on Rick's point, I note that if we did draft a 33 Senate member plan, we would not have to split Franklin County, nor would Scarborough need to be split.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. McDonough. We'll proceed next to Kate Carpenter, who also provided fairly detailed written comments in support of her comments she's going to make today about congressional districting. Get her into the meeting.
I should start to be audible.
There you are. We can hear you and we can see you. Thank you. And thank you for your efforts before this meeting.
Thank you. And thank you for all of your work in assembling all of these ideas. I have to say that while I kind of work in this medium for a living periodically, I am really nervous this morning. So thank you for your patience. I've never really done something like this. Something that I didn't include in my comments that I'm going to say was the motivated issue here. When the maps came out, I shared them with my 16-year-old son on Friday, I think. And he is a student in AP US history this semester. And he's like, that kind of looks like gerrymandering. And I'm like, you're kind of right. It does kind of look like gerrymandering when we're looking specifically at the US congressional redistricting around Kennebec County, where a lot of both my parents grew up in Waterville. A lot of my family is around that area. And my parents, were married in Waterville. And so it's an area that I'm familiar with. And so I wanted to present this to the committee. I'm not going to go into the map in detail. I'm just going to kind of say the meat of my remarks. And then the map, thank you very much, is up on the site I just saw, and people can look at the detail there. But I noted Senator Jackson opened up with the elections and apportionment title and chapter, and that the concern there was a focus on compact and contiguous and crosses political divisions the least number of times. Meanwhile, the constriction that they be equally populated is present, but secondary and, quote, as possible. I am concerned the existing party source materials moved a little bit more toward gerrymandering, like I mentioned, as I shared with my son, than we've been before. So I'm putting forth a more compact proposal in the PDF that I sent with my email that's up on the bottom of my lengthy comments. The goals were 3 parts for the US congressional districts, looking at Kennebec County specifically. Keep neighboring communities within the same congressional district so that neighbors can better discuss and collaborate with each other across nearby communities on how to get their local representatives to best address their needs. All towns in this proposal, I'm going to fudge this a little bit, share at least 40% or more of their linear borders with other towns in the same congressional district. I don't know if I actually got there with Litchfield, but that's was kind of my goal, was to see, hey, how much can I get linear borders to sign up in the same congressional district? And then keep aligned with existing known political divisions. And I kind of looked at this from 2 different vantage points, and I won't spend too much looking at the Senate districts because I know those are in flux. But for the most part, based on the old state Senate districts, I tried to keep it to only 2 towns that were kind of, 2 state Senate districts that were split between CD1 and CD2. Whereas the party proposals seemed to have 4. I go, again, I know those are changing, so it's not necessarily as relevant. Also, I tried to take a look at school districts and school district feeder patterns. And so this proposal tries to keep the school districts together within the same CD1 or CD2, except China, which is technically in a school, not technically, is in a school district that's on the other side of the Kennebec River in Vassalboro from it. But a lot of those students feed into a high school in CD1. So that's why I put China with CD1. This map is visibly more geographically coherent for easy identification of the ordinary voter, and reestablishes geography as a primary goal of the shape of reapportionment. Anyone can look and understand that these lines are reasonably formed on a geographic basis. Like the rest of the division of the congressional district across the state through the other counties, you kind of see a line going through the state that kind of visually makes sense. I'm concerned that the more we create gerrymandered appearing district lines in Kennebec County at each redistricting cycle, the more gerrymandering in the future is harder to contest in Kennebec and elsewhere, and the less understandable these divisions become to ordinary voters. This proposed map does not perform the mathematical gymnastics that are really quite admirable of the party provided proposals where everything is pretty much exactly equal in terms of population. In order to achieve the compact and cohesive and community-minded geographic efficiency, the result has about an 1,100 person difference total between CD1 and CD2. So my concerning is that I've talked with family members and they're concerned about the Swiss cheesing of Kennebec County. And I think it might be destabilizing that these small communities in the southern or northern ends of Kennebec County have to worry about waking up some decade and they're suddenly in the opposite US congressional district that was once several towns away, just because Kennebec County is the one tasked for, evening out the districts. So I believe that this geographically simple proposal here, with a modest compromise on the math of the number of people per district, will provide a precedent for long-term stability of the district lines, clarity for everyday voters, and is well worth the small and fleeting difference in division of populations between districts. And I'll kind of end with there, but I'll just say quickly, my proposal is for CD1 to be Vassalboro, China, Augusta, Windsor, Hallowell, Chelsea, Farmingdale, Randolph, West Gardner, Garter, and Pittston. And I'm going kind of geographically in rows when I'm pronouncing those. They're in alphabetical order on the map. And CD2, Clinton, Unity, Benton, Rome, Oakland, Waterville, Windsor, Albion, Vienna, Mount Vernon, Belgrade, Sydney, Fayette, Ridgefield, Manchester, Wayne, Winthrop, Monmouth, and Litchfield. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced somebody's town. To close, I'll just say that I just believe that the geographical districts should make sense to a typical voter, and that setting that precedent of geographic clarity over the exact division of voters and population numbers will stymie corruptive gerrymandering efforts in the future and better serve both the law and the voter. Thank you all very much for listening to my lengthy proposal.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Carpenter. Appreciate your comments and suggestions, and I can tell you I'm pretty sure that they will be get consideration in the discussions we have next week. Again, I want to reiterate, it's unfortunate and perhaps in part my fault that we didn't have more discussions to try to get agreement before the maps had to be published this last week, but we had some challenges as a result of distancing requirements that we found out about Tuesday. And so the discussions that we were hoping to have on Wednesday and Thursday to try to get more cohesiveness and agreement on these what weren't able to occur as well as we'd hoped. But we hope to re-engage those discussions this week. Looking forward to it. Any comments from any of the commissioners with regard to or questions from the commissioners with regard to Ms. Carpenter's proposals? Checking, seeing none. Okay. Any comments or observations from our consultants, Dave Emery or Greg Olson? Dave?
Yeah, I just want to thank Catherine for a very thoughtful presentation. And you should understand that we all agree that it's better to have geographically reasonable, balanced districts. The problem that we face is the Supreme Court, US Supreme Court decision that requires the populations to be as close to even as practicable. And that's what drives the difference of one. It's not gerrymandering. Gerrymandering may flow from the fact that there are only certain combinations that give you that differential. And both sides have the computer programs that run the analyses, and you might be interested to know that there are 1,158 combinations of towns in Kennebec County alone that give you that differential. Most of them are not usable because they're far-flung, not contiguous in one thing or another. So when you come down to the challenge, you've got an identified number of, I don't know, a couple dozen maybe, that actually work. And those are the ones that we choose from. None of them are pretty. 10 years ago, we had a combination that was reasonably close to being pretty, I mean, on the map. But it's a frustration that we share just as you do. And frankly, if we could draw those maps with the plus or minus 5%, your proposal would probably be as good as anyone else's. And I thank you for the time you put in to think about it. It's very thoughtful, and I appreciate it.
Okay. Greg Olson, any comments you want to offer?
Yeah, I'm just sort of going to reiterate what David said. Catherine, I really appreciate you taking the effort and your son looking at this. It's not easy to put together maps, but our interpretation of recent Supreme Court decisions is we really don't have an option to vary from as perfect equality between the populations of the district as is possible. My interpretation and understanding is if any challenger to a plan can show that a map can be created with equal population, these other factors will be set aside. And I think it's important as we look, on the objective measures, we split only one county, both parties do, and we split no municipalities, which are, as objective as a criteria as is possible. I obviously see great merit in what you're discussing about lines that look good to the public, keep communities of interest in place. But the courts tell us those factors are secondary to equal population. Maybe just a hopeful note. I think the proposals between the two parties are very close. As we can see, we agree on 15 counties and a handful of communities in Kennebec County. And I think it's a question of how we resolve the latter, some of these municipalities around. I'm hopeful we find agreement, and then an agreement will ultimately be more lines that have more aesthetics than perhaps what's been proposed by the two parties. But thank you very much for your efforts, Ms. Carpenter.
Thank you. And I want to add that thanks. I would point out that there's a way to achieve almost parity with your district, with your proposal, but it would violate a whole bunch of other reasons and really look like gerrymandering. And that's what if we took Vienna and put it in the first district too, you'd have almost parity then with the two, but we absolutely can't do that because it doesn't have any other connection with the first district. Anyways, but we appreciate very much the effort you made, and I want to emphasize, as Dave Emery and Greg Olson have, that this will be seriously considered as we go forward this week in our discussions. Do any other commissioners have any other comments, observations they want to make with regard to Ms. Carpenter's presentation? Okay.
I would just like to say one thing that just occurred to me as I was looking at it this morning. The CD2 and differential between is 1,100 more, and at the rate of population shift, it's entirely possible that that's no longer the case. So it's something that I don't know if you ever have a chance to consider projections, going out into the next decade, but it's something I hope is fodder for future discussion.
Well, I appreciate those observations. I want to tell you, if we get into considering projections for the next decade, which we don't know, because actually there's a lot of growth now all of a sudden being reported even in Aroostook County.
I imagine.
But, you can imagine what people will be saying if we based our districts on projections, talk about claims of gerrymandering, of things like that. So it's not something we can do, but thank you very much for the observations. And thank you very much for your considered thought, Ms. Carpenter, and ideas. The next person we have for a discussion is Patricia Rupert Nason.
Hi, thank you for taking the time today, and thank you for all your work on this. I know it's been very challenging circumstances, both in terms of time and COVID.
Okay.
I honestly want to echo what Catherine had said. Like, as a member of the public, I'm a resident of Fort Kent, and I looked at these maps and I said gerrymandering. And it looks really bad. And I am a math person. I did a PhD in optimization. So the first thing I go to is the numbers, always. And in fact, the numbers bore me out a little bit, that each caucus has gone for the map that gives them their partisan advantage. The Republican map puts a lot more Dems in CD1, and the Democrat map puts a lot more Dems in CD2. And that didn't really surprise me after looking at those maps, but it's disappointing. It's not what I had hoped to see. I have my own partisan leanings for sure, but I strongly believe that when doing redistricting, it is really important that it be fair and that it maximize fair representation, not partisan advantage. And I've had the opportunity to experience when those maps are drawn otherwise. I used to live in Wisconsin, and the last set of redistricting was so extreme that even a number of years later, one party won a very clear and significant majority of the votes in the state, and the other party controlled a near supermajority of the state legislature. That is the definition of unfair and unrepresentative. And that is not something I would like to see. So I would really encourage you, as you're drawing these maps, something else to keep in mind is, as I look at that CD1, CD2 map and see that it has some bias in it, and it undermines my confidence as a constituent in the state Senate maps, in the other maps that it is harder for me with the resources I have to fully analyze. So it has practical and confidence implications. I also sketched up a map. I also did not manage to do plus or minus one, although I came within 0.005% of equality between the two districts. And I would argue very strongly within the margin of error of the census. So I did focus on the CD1, CD2 map because frankly, that's what a member of the public without the fancy software is capable of analyzing and coming up with a map for. But I came up with a map that with I believe 69% difference, but I was actually matching it to one of those maps, so it might be off by 1 or 2, but like no more than 70 person difference, so 0.005% in population. It's got Lichtfield, Monmouth, West Gardner, Pittston, Randolph, Chelsea, Augusta, Farmingdale, Hollowell, and Vassalboro. Much like Catherine's, those are the towns in CD1, and the remainder in CD2. Much like Catherine's, it is more compact. But I was paying attention to one other factor. I walked in accepting your premise that only Kennebec County should be split. There might be better maps with choosing a different county to split. I don't know, I didn't try. And that we weren't going to split municipalities. And the thing that I added as a goal in addition to compactness was that I presumed that the existing counties in CD1 and CD2 are a fair split of the state. It feels fair as a member of CD2. The current districts seem reasonable to me. I didn't do any math to analyze and confirm that. And I would argue that if we're splitting Kennebec County, that we should split Kennebec County in a representative way or have a compelling argument for why the particular split is non-representative. So Kennebec County is, based on the last election, very close to equally split between Democratic and Republican votes. And so I would argue that the split should be the same. To do that, as you run through the math, that means Augusta should be in one place, Waterville should be in the other. And rationally, Augusta should be in CD1 and Waterville should be in CD2 because, well, geography. Augusta is south of Waterville. So that gave me a 50.4% Democratic based on the 2020 election, with the towns that would have been in CD1. And that compares to the statewide or the countywide split of 50.1% Democratic. So quite close. For something to keep in mind looking at the statewide maps, and again, I don't have the tools to analyze these adequately. I'm working at a spreadsheet here. But I would argue that probably the best having done a little research in the literature, probably the best measure of fairness for a map is proportionality, i.e. if you have 20%, let's see, say 55% of the vote goes to one party, you should have roughly 55% of the representatives that get elected be of that party. Obviously, it's never going to be perfect, and it's really hard to apply to 2 congressional districts, but it makes more sense when you get into reps and senators. So I would strongly encourage you guys, as you try and make a unified map, to try and make a fair map. That, from my perspective, ought to be the goal, not who can get the best partisan advantage.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your observations. I would add here, I hear the concerns expressed about gerrymandering, but one of the things that the parties decided early on is they would not go, and the commission too, go for what would be most favorable to the parties, each party, but would simply look at really sort of narrow differences in Kennebec County. I mean, had we had the license to do as they do in places like Wisconsin or Ohio or places like that, we would probably see a lot of things like maybe, a lot of moves of other counties. For example, making the first congressional district sort of a totally southern Maine district with running Androscoggin into the first district, and the second district much more a northern upstate district the other way. But that's not something that was within the parameters that the caucuses and the commission decided on. I mean, there may be allegations of partisanship, but and gerrymandering, but it's within a pretty small range compared to what could happen if we were in states like the ones you've mentioned. And in fact, they were the party in control or trying to be in control could move counties, and we've eliminated that with the discussion, and that's a choice the commission has made and the caucuses have made to limit the discussion to Kennebec County, which was already the only divided county. There was no law that said they had to do that, but that was something they elected to do to try to, again, get the fairest representation we could.
But when I look at that map, within those constraints that you set yourself, the 2 parties have put forth maps that are, I don't have the math to look at every combination, but certainly substantially favorable to their own parties. And looking at maps that look quite bad and that there is some partisan lean in, it undermines personally my confidence in looking at then the representative maps, which also have some real funny shaped districts in them. And so I look at that and I go, I wonder why those are shaped that way. I wonder what's the agenda. So
shape a lot is division. You have pretty funny shaped districts because you have, populations that's in some geographic areas is very limited, and you've got to deal with that.
And as I said, I don't have the resources to analyze them. I don't have the software. So I'm not saying that is nefarious. I'm saying it looks bad, and that this one that you can analyze then undermines confidence in those as well, which it's harder for a layperson to analyze, for someone who's not an expert sitting with the full set of software.
Okay. thank you. Any questions from any of the commissioners? Okay. Any questions or comments want to be offered by either of the caucus consultants, Dave Emery or Greg Olson? I see Dave Emery's hand up.
Yeah, just very quickly, Patricia, given your experience in Wisconsin, do you think that a fair approach to congressional redistricting would be to maybe move the smallest net difference of Republicans and Democrats, in other words, to maintain the current balance? Because I mean, you could move thousands of Democrats or Republicans one way or another, but suppose the goal was to maintain the balance. Doesn't it?
So I don't know that I'd have to look at the overall population numbers in the state and how that has shifted. That would, I don't think, it depends on what the overall politics of the state has shifted. If you're doing that and basically ending up packing Democrats in CD1, that probably isn't a fair, principled way to do it. I think you can make other arguments for what is a fair, principled approach. Like I said, I chose one that was frankly simple for me to execute with the resources I have, which is assuming that the existing selection of counties is fair and that we're dividing Kennebec, let's divide Kennebec fairly. Because I got the numbers in a spreadsheet, it's manageable to say, let's make the division in Kennebec County match Kennebec County's division.
And you were looking at and how did you decide what the partisan division? You said you looked at the last election.
I looked at the 2020 election results. Again, you could make a fair, principled argument to use somewhat different numbers.
Right.
I don't know that it would change it dramatically, especially not once you've got the constraints, the other constraints you have on it.
On the 2020 election results, did you look at the results in terms of deciding the partisan split where the biggest amount of votes were? Did you look at the results of the presidential election or the U.S. Senate election?
Presidential.
Different?
I did not look at both, so I don't know. I just did this over this weekend. I got 2 little kids, so I've got a limited amount of time to spend on things. And the easy data for me to access was Bangor Daily News town by town election results from the 2020 presidential election. It would be interesting to see if it made a difference with the congressional, with the Senate election. That would
you
be.
Understand there was a big difference between the Senate election partisan orientation and the presidential election partisan orientation.
Yeah, and it might make a difference. It might not. It would be interesting to see if it's got a geographic difference as well as a numerical difference. It may or may not. It was a rough measure of the partisan lean of different communities, and that was what I was looking for. I don't say that my map is the right map. In fact, it may be an unusable map, given if it truly has to be plus or minus 1. I would argue as a math person, that's too tight, because really 69 people is within the error of the census. It is it's 0.005% difference in population. It will never tip an election, probably. It's a really tiny difference, and you don't know the population to that precision.
Okay.
But,
any other questions? Any other questions or comments? Greg Olson, anything you want to add? Or any other commissioner have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Seeing none. Thank you very much, Ms. Rupert Nason. And I appreciate your comments and observations and the analysis you did in terms of looking at this.
And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate your effort. Next person I have on the list is Penelope Hamblin. And I'll be
Hello. Hi.
Morning.
Good
Amber.
morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today. I live in South Portland. I'm here today as a volunteer representing the League of Women Voters of Maine. And I just have a very brief comment and request. We were disappointed that the 3 maps released last week, especially the state Senate district maps, did not provide enough detail for residents of some of the redrawn districts to actually see where they were being assigned. And we heard Deb McDonough testify earlier about that was a problem for her. We believe that a fair and transparent redistricting process must include informed input from the public. That's why we're here today, and we appreciate that. Yet it is made more difficult given the rather inscrutable maps that we had to work with. We appreciate that shapefiles for the Democratic State Senate proposal were made available on request, and hope to see them made available for the other proposals as well. So I'm just asking if you can please make every effort to release the State House of Representatives district maps, which you've just said should be out today, in ESRI shapefile format, so that communities and members of the public can better evaluate their fairness and provide input if possible. We realize the almost impossible timeline that you were working under. I do not envy you what you have to accomplish this week. So thank you so much for the work you have done and are going to be doing. But we just ask if you can possibly make it a priority to try to release better maps to the public today. And thank you so much for your time and attention.
Well, I appreciate your concern, Mr. Hamblin. I understand your concern is particularly addressed at municipalities that may be divided. Is that correct? Because
yes,
it's a little more difficult to look at those, because we do have lists of municipalities, and the maps that were distributed, I think, fairly clearly delineate which municipalities are in which district. The problem comes, as we heard discussed earlier, for those municipalities that are divided.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Any comments or questions from commissioners for Ms. Hamblin? Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee consultants, Dave Emery or Greg Olson, from Ms. Hamblin? Okay. Okay, seeing none. Okay, well, Ms. Hamblin, thank you very much. I appreciate your comments and observations, and say we will do what we can to try to do it within our technological limitations.
Thank you, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you for provide some better delineation of when we do divide municipalities. Though I want to emphasize one of the efforts that has been undertaken by each of the caucuses is to limit the number of municipalities that are divided, which is also a limitation, which is a statutory responsibility of the commission. So thank you very much. And I think because the other person who wanted to make public comment indicated he wasn't available at the time, Kevin Lamoureux, and we did hear from Mr. Lamoureux at the last meeting. I think that concludes the public comment section of the meeting. At this point, I'd ask if there's any more comments that commissioners want to make with regard to the congressional districts, the Senate districts, or the county commission districts. Before we proceed to the next item on the agenda, which would be the consideration of whether we should proceed to and perhaps voting on the county commission districts that we have, which does not include Franklin County. Does any other comments of the commissioners on the congressional, the state senate, or the county commission districts? Any other comments you want to make at this time? Okay. Any other comments that want to be offered by either of the committee consultants, Dave Emery or Greg Olson, on any of the districts?
I just want to clarify, I thought we had a Franklin proposal that was
do.
acceptable to all sides. So I believe we have all 16 counties without exception.
Correct.
Oh,
We do.
okay. Okay, maybe I missed that somewhere. Was it circulated?
I think it's been posted, hasn't it? Isn't it
Yes, it's
online
been
now?
posted on the website.
Okay, all right, great. Good. Okay, well, we can proceed with that then. Any other comments? And they say this is on the general issues. Any other comments from the commissioners on anything or whether we? Okay. Everybody all set to proceed on consideration of the county commissioner district plans then?
Prepared to make a motion when you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I just want to see if there's any other comments we have. Or is there anybody who has any objections to the any of the county commissioner district plans that we have? Okay. Well, I appreciate, and I want to emphasize, this is something like, Julie Flynn, did you have a comment? I saw your hand.
Well, I'm belatedly going through the county issues. Louds Island is not specifically listed in Lincoln County. It was in District 2. I'm assuming it would continue to be, but that's a township. It should at least be listed.
Yeah, in Lincoln County, I want to emphasize, is one of the counties that we elected not to make any change in from the last thing. So whatever was in Lincoln County in the 2013 redistricting would stay in Lincoln County now. Julie, any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other comments or observations? Okay, then I would recognize, and we may have a vote on this. So I will recognize Commissioner Tardy for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to the county commissioners map, I would move that the commission adopt the consensus county commission apportionment plan submitted by for public review that is been duly published.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion? Looking for a second. Okay, Bev Hike, seconded by, represented by, motion by Commissioner Tardy, seconded by Commissioner Eulenhake. And I want to emphasize again, thank you very much for the efforts that this has showed a combined effort by the commissioners and the commission caucuses that resulted in this maps with ultimately we now have a joining map of Franklin County, so we can consider all 16 counties. As the commission previously preliminary determined, we did not make any change in 6 of the counties because they were within the maps. But any other comments that any commissioners want to make before we proceed to voting on the motion to adopt the 16 county commissioner plans and maps? Okay. I'm just checking my computer on the commissioner lists now. Okay. Okay, any objection to proceeding to reach a vote now then? Then at this point, I'm going to ask Susan Panett to call the roll of the commission on the motion to adopt the county commissioner plans and maps. Any, say a vote in favor or yes is a vote to adopt the, to take up the county, all 16 county commissioner maps at once and adopt them. A vote no would be a vote not to take them up and adopt them at the present time. And at this point, I would authorize Susan Panett to call the roll, though because I'm chair, I ought to be called last rather than first. Okay. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Can everybody hear Susan Panett?
Again, oh, excellent, thank you. I apologize, I do not have video, so I will just call the roll. Senator Jackson.
Yes.
Senator Jackson votes yes. Senator Libby.
Yes.
Senator Libby votes yes. Senator Davis.
Yes.
Senator Davis votes yes. Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Senator Bennett votes yes. Representative Dumpy.
Yes.
Representative Dumpy votes yes. Representative Ann Perry.
Yes.
Representative Ann Perry votes yes. Representative Brennan.
Yes.
Representative Brennan votes yes. Representative Wayne Perry. Representative Perry is absent. Representative Kryzak.
Yes.
Representative Kryzak votes yes. Representative Morris.
Yes.
Representative Morris votes yes. Josh Tardy.
Yes.
Josh Tardy votes yes. Bev Eulenhake.
Yes.
Bev Eulenhake votes yes. Matt Moonen.
Yes.
Matt Moonen votes yes. Joe Turcott.
Yes.
Joe Turcott votes yes. I'll recall, oh, excuse me, Justice Alexander.
I vote yes.
Justice Alexander votes yes. I will recall Representative Wayne Perry. Wayne Perry is absent.
Okay, all votes in favor. Thank you. The motion is adopted, and the county commissioner districts are approved as a unanimous commission action of the commissioners present and voting. We will make that as part of our report on the matter. The next, thank you very much for that effort of participation. I want to emphasize again, thank you. This is, I know it's been difficult circumstances. You've worked a lot on this. All of you have participated in this, and we much appreciate that we're able to get to a unanimous word. And my guess is approximately, 58 or so districts that we have approved this morning. The next item on the agenda is the next meeting date, and recognizing that we're hoping to get the House districts out today and in some form. Then and we really have to do this because we're getting near the end of our time. I propose a commission meeting date and time of 1 o'clock on Wednesday, on this Wednesday, the 22nd. I circulated that, I think, already in a note to the commissioners at the end of last week. But anyways, what I would propose is a meeting. We meet next primarily to discuss the House districts and perhaps to discuss any changes that there have been or any agreements that we might have reached on the congressional Senate districts at that time, but primarily discuss the House districts. I would anticipate then another meeting, and it will be remote because of the COVID-19 restrictions and the convenience of the commission members. They'll probably have to have another meeting on Thursday or Friday to finally approve what we can approve as a commission. But the next meeting I proposed for 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 22nd. Any comments on that from any of the commissioners? Okay. And I would set the next meeting for Wednesday at 1 o'clock to discuss the House districts, and we'll publish a notice of that. And we hope that the House districts will be out today, but in any event, we've got to meet on Wednesday at 1 o'clock to focus on the House districts, and then we're going to be moving forward perhaps later in the week with other agreements. Okay. Any other business to come before the commission at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Kryzak, Representative Kryzak.
our meeting on Wednesday, is that going to be a public hearing for the House seats or just a
Yes.
meeting of us? It is. All
No,
right,
it's
thank
going to be, we were going to publish a public notice today. That's why I said in whatever form, we've got to get the House district maps out by the end of the day today. So have a couple, some time to develop public comment and then have a public comment. And the public comment, we will do as we did today. We will open the meeting. We will, the first order of business, I'm not going to have minutes of this meeting yet. I don't think we need them. Will then be discussion of the House district maps, obviously the commissioners and the consultants having the first opportunity to make comments, and then open it up to the public for those that have registered to make comments. And we'd probably have a deadline of 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning to sign up to make public comments. And we'd have to then hear those, ask any questions that you all want to ask of the public, and then we would discuss further among ourselves how to proceed after that. And also probably set the next meeting day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I have a rather
Go
quick
ahead.
question. Are we proceeding that our final day to act is this Friday or this coming Monday? I think that's important for
The deadline for the
understanding our
commission
time frame.
report, is Monday. I mean, so that's effectively our final date to act. I hope we can have pretty well identified, because the report is not something you can do in half an hour. I would hope we would have something identified by the end of this week if we're going to have agreement, or certainly sometime during the weekend. But you're right. Our final deadline to get the report out is the close of business on Monday, the 27th. That's
Thank you.
correct. Any other comments, observations about that? Okay. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Second.
Josh Tardy, seconded by Senator Jackson. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Yes. And at this point, we would be adjourned. Thank you very much for your effort. And I know a lot of you are going to be engaged in ongoing and continuing efforts, even later this morning, into this afternoon, and over the next several days. Appreciate your work, mostly volunteer, but it's a great, important work you're doing to show that we in fact do have integrity and all. And because of Maine's geographic character, we can't make all the district squares, but we're certainly trying to do it in the best and most agreeable way possible. It's best for the citizens and people of Maine. And I know you're all dedicated towards that goal too. Thank you very much. And if I don't see you before, we will see and be talking with you Wednesday at 1 o'clock. I declare this meeting adjourned.